Hello, also in this video series, we are going to see how can we create different types of SSRS reports. Now, before we create the SSRS report, we first need to have SSRS installed on our local machine. So in this video, we are going to see the prerequisite of our SSRS installation. All right, so in this documentation, so you can find that in GitHub. This is the URL. So I have mentioned different steps of prerequisite for the SSRS installation. And the very first step is related to my VM. So I'm going to use the same VM, or basically the SQL Server, which I used for SQL Server 2019 active cluster installation. Okay. After that, we are going to create a new AD account. We'll come to that. So before we move ahead, let me first start my virtual machines. So and remember, I'm going to use two virtual machines. One is a domain controller, and another is a normal individual VM. So let me start the virtual machine. And why is that? Because my users are domain users. Those are not individual users. So that's why I need to start both domain VM or domain controller VM as well as the normal VM or where SQL Server is installed. So let me start other VM as well. Should not take much time. Once it starts, I will first log in and we'll create this account as well. Okay. So I'm logging in as domain administrator user. So that's why my domain is Goktes and user is administrator. Password #123. I have a common password for all the users. Now the first thing which I am supposed to do after logging is I need to create this AD account. This account we are going to use at the time of installation of SSRS. We'll come to that point later in subsequent videos. And let me maximize this guy and I will search for Active Directory users and computers. And here, so if you can see here, you will find the entries for SQL agent and SQL Server. These are the users I had created at the time of SQL Server installation. Let me create a new user, and first name I will give SQL and last name I will give SSRS, SQL Server Reporting Services. Perfect. And login as SQL PRD SSRS @goktes.local. This is perfect. So password, I will keep the password same. Password #123 P8 password #123. Perfect. So our user is created. Perfect. Our work is done for this. I will minimize this guy. Let me close this. So I mean you can check here if you go to SQL agent, you will find SQL and agent as a last name and account is this guy. So let me copy this. And similarly for SQL SSRS, properties, display name is automatically came. Yeah, that's fine. Perfect. So we are good here. I will close this. So we are done. We don't need domain controller now, but I will not shut it down. We'll keep it open. Now the next is we have to validate the SQL Server connection. Okay, so let me start the second VM where SQL Server is installed. And Here also I'm going to log in as a domain user. Perfect. So this is the domain user, and as I said, password is same. Oh, come on. Perfect. And I need to check the connectivity for SQL Server. So I will open SSMS. And thing is, so I am part of domain admin group. So we had created, if you see in earlier videos, we had created. So let me show you that as well. So if I go back to my domain controller and if I look for users, Active Directory users, computers, here I had created this group, SQL PRD admin, and this group had sysadmin access to my SQL Server installation. So if I go to properties and if you see, so me and my brother, so these are the two accounts. These are part of this group, SQL PRD admin group, and this group has access to SQL Server, sysadmin access. So if I log in now to my using my ID as a Windows authentication, I should be able to access uh, that SQL Server installation. So let me go back and let's try that. So this is the node 1. Let me open. And I will use, as I said, I will use a Windows authentication. And since I logged in into this VM as my ID, automatically it should take that ID. We'll see that. Okay, so it has taken my ID and this is the server. Okay, Tgokta is the server. Okay, now and this is my node. Okay, and this is the instance name. So now let me try to connect first. See, it's taking time. That means something is wrong. It should not take this long. So let me go and see SQL Server Configuration Manager if the services are running. So my services are stopped. Should not get its automatic mode. I don't know why these are stopped. Okay, started. Started. Let me go back. Yeah, now I am logged in. So let me close all other stuff. Okay, so I'm successfully logged in into my SQL Server. There is one database. We don't have to worry about that. Now let me go back to the installer. So I have copied this installer last time. Okay, let me start that installer, setup.exe. And we are supposed to install SQL Server reporting services. If I go to the installation tab, here it says, here is the entry for SQL Server reporting services. But look at this. What it says is an internet connection is required to install SSRS. Now, if you look at my VM, it's not connected to internet. Now, why is that? So we have to first bring this VM. This VM should have internet connectivity. Otherwise, we cannot proceed. So what we can do is, so first of all, we have to identify why this VM doesn't is not connected to internet. So if I go to CMD and if I see ipconfig, I can see, let me maximize this. So I can see one IP, this is the second IP, this is the third IP, this is the fourth IP. So there are four IPs, but there are three Ethernet connections now, or NIC cards you can say. So what I will do, I will go to control panel, and if I check network internet, and if I check network status, exact three NIC cards I can see here, and not a single NIC card is connected to internet. Okay, now why is that? Because this is my VM, and this VM is installed on my local machine. Now, if I go back to my local machine, so my VM will not get internet connectivity directly. It will share my local machine's internet connectivity. Now, if I open my command prompt, if I type ipconfig, if you, okay, let me, okay. Now, if we compare, check the IP address range of so it is 192.168.145.1. So this is my IP, 192.168.89.1. This is the range. So basically, it should this should be the IP for my local machine for the internet connection. Now, if I check the range of these IPs here, 192.168.80, it's not of this range. It has to be something 145 or and some extra digit. But none of the IP of my virtual machine belongs to this range. Reason being, whenever we created these IPs or specified these IPs, we specified for our maybe for Windows cluster or SQL cluster or for iSCSI installation for some particular reason. Not a single IP is sharing the connection or part of same network which belongs to my local machine. So what we can do is let me add another NIC card. So manage virtual machine settings. Let me close other things first. I will close remaining things in my VM. I will close this guy also. And now I will go to VM and manage virtual machine settings. And I will go to add, and I will add the NIC card. Okay, finish. Now, if you can see here, I have mentioned use to share the host IP address. So now whatever NIC card which I have added now, the extra NIC card, fourth one, it will share the IP address of my host machine. I will click OK and it will restart my machine. So let's see what happens. Okay, let me start my machine manually. Okay, now you should see here, it's still trying to identify, but let me restart it once again, just for safer side. Restart, continue. Okay, perfect. Okay, and let me open CMD. Don't ask. Since we added a NIC card now, extra NIC card, we should see that entry here. Okay, so this is the last entry which you can see. This one which we added recently. And now if you look at the IP address of it, 192.168.145.146, and the default gateway is 192.168.145.2. Now look at my local machine's IP address, 192.168.145.1. So now my both of these machines are on same network, and that's why now it should be able to see, it shows as internet access. So if I go back to control panel and network and internet statuses, yeah, so this is the extronic card which we added, last one, fourth one, and that has internet connectivity. Now if I click here and check the properties, obtain IP address automatically. So this IP address, it is taking from my local machine. Reason being, when we added the NIC card, we selected that property. So if I go back to virtual machine setting, this is the fourth one. See, it says used to share the host's IP address. Perfect. Okay. Now, so we should be able to connect to internet. Yes. And now the next step which we have to do is download Chrome browser. We'll download the Chrome browser. It is much easier than Internet Explorer. It's still taking time. Finally, still not connecting. Finally, yeah. Yeah. Okay. I have connected to internet and I will download. Let me close this guy. Come on. Should not be that slow. Okay, let's take this. Come on. What I'm doing wrong. Anyway, we'll stop here. I will get this installed offline. And so basically, we have completed the prerequisite. So let me go back. So we created a new Active Directory account. We checked the SQL connectivity. It is working fine. We added the NIC card and this download, I will do Chrome download. So in the next video, we'll start the actual SSRS installation. Thank you for watching this video and see you in the next video.